What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. This is the first episode of mine where basically I'm just going to chat a load of crap about cameras, cinematography, films, gear, anything like that really. So let's just jump straight into the actual topic of this video straight away, and that is actually the Canon R5 versus the Canon R6 Mark II. Now, basically, I don't know if any of you guys know, but the camera that I'm currently using on a day-to-day basis to shoot my photography, shoot my video, shoot my YouTube videos, everything like that, is the Canon EOS R. Now, the Canon EOS R is a full-frame camera, and it was actually the first camera Canon actually released for their RF mount mirrorless system. Basically, it's a great camera, but when it first came out in 2018, so 5 years ago now, it had a lot of flaws. And when I mean a lot of flaws, it was mainly on the video side. It's not the fastest camera in the world in terms of like shooting for sport, shooting for wildlife. I think without continuous focus, which is what you really need anyway to actually start shooting fast-moving subjects, is 8 frames per second, and with continuous focus I think it's 5, so it's not great for that anyway. But overall it's got, I think, a 30.1 or 31.3 something megapixel sensor, so it's wonderful at taking photos. I love it so much. You can get some really nice sharp photos, and honestly I'm using it all the time, like for my photography. It's just great. I love it for my photography. Paired up with the 70-200 and 35mm and 50mm, it's great. However, it's on the video side that's the problem. And I don't know, you probably already do know this, but the thing is with the Canon EOS R is the 4K video, really, I would have to say. So 4K video has like a 1.6 or maybe even it might be a 1.7 times crop. So basically, if you're shooting at 50mm, you've got to times that by 1.6. So instead of it being a 50mm lens, it'll end up being something like a 75 to 80mm lens instead. Now, for reach, that is good. Obviously, for wildlife, for reach, if you're putting a 70-200 on at 200mm, it will times it by 1.6. So you'll end up getting a near like 300mm or whatever lens, something like that, instead because of the reach. However, that's the whole point of a full frame camera. You're going to want to shoot 4K at full frame, and you can't do that with the Canon EOS R. So that's the first bad thing about it. Another bad thing about it is that it's only 4K 25 frames per second and 4K 30 frames per second. Another bad thing that I can't shoot 60 frames per second in it, because I would love to shoot 60 frames per second in everything, because at the minute when I'm shooting my YouTube videos, I'm actually trying to shoot it all in landscape, and then I can actually crop it in. Let's actually get a little bit tighter on this shot. Let's see what that's alright. A little bit further back. And I actually want to, like, what do you call it? I would like to shoot all of it in landscape, and then I can cut it up and basically still keep that 4K footage for if I want to repost certain clips of that video for YouTube Shorts, for TikTok, for Instagram, anything like that really. So the fact that when I do make my videos, I like to shoot in 60 frames per second so I can slow stuff down. However, I'll have to shoot in 1080p 60 frames per second to actually be able to do that, because obviously the Canon EOS R does not have 4K 60 frames per second. Now, with the Canon EOS R, when I actually do that, obviously for shorts, whenever I zoom in to actually fit the frame for a short, I'm going to lose quality because it's only in 1080p, whereas if it was in 4K, I'd still keep that really high quality when I do repost for shorts. And when I do actually try that now, the footage really does look a bit mushy, and it doesn't look very good at all. It looks more like 720p, and if you know anything about me, I hate 720p, and that's actually going into another thing why I hate about this camera in a minute, and that's the 720p on this camera, because not only can you not shoot 4K 60, but you can't even shoot 1080p 120 frames per second. To be able to shoot 120 frames per second, you're going to have to use the 720p mode in 120 frames per second, and honestly, I'm not shooting in 720p. I tried it once, it didn't look awful, but considering you can now shoot 8K in the Canon R5, who's really shooting on 720p, no matter what anyone tells you. So I don't even use that. So for my Canon EOS R, I can't shoot 4K 60, I can't even shoot full frame 4K, and I can't shoot 1080p at the minimum 120 frames per second because I love that super slow-mo. Now, I'm not saying I hate this camera at all. I love my Canon EOS R. It was my first ever full-frame camera. Before this, I had the Fujifilm X-T30, and I just wanted full-frame, and I wanted to go to Canon. And I thought the only way to get into the Canon EOS R world was to pick up a Canon EOS R, because I thought it was better than the RP, and it wasn't that much difference in price, but the R6 was a bit too much money for me. However, fast forward, what now? It's a year and a half nearly, and to be honest, I would love to have a second body camera because I shot a wedding last year in around August time, and being honest, shooting it with just one camera was a nightmare. You never know what's going to happen. You could run out of, like, your batteries could mess up, the camera could mess up and everything like that. You have to keep changing lenses to actually get wide angle and then a super telephoto lens like a 70-200 constantly, and you can't miss a shot. So if anything bad happened that day, I wouldn't have shot anything because I didn't have a backup camera or even a second camera to get multiple angles of the same thing so I can cut between them. However, if I ever do another wedding in the future, I definitely want a second body. So before I even begin to think about doing another wedding, I can't really go through that stress again. I'm going to have to buy a second camera. And to be fair, overall, I've got to say, it will be worth it overall in the end. The fact that I'll actually love to be able to shoot 4K 60 and actually have two camera bodies is great. So now I'm in the dilemma of choosing what camera to actually buy next, and I can't actually tell you how many times I've been back and forth between the cameras I actually want to get. First of all, it was the Canon R6 because that was the camera I was going to get before anyway over the Canon EOS R. But I thought I'll save my money, grab a lens, and still get it for cheaper than the R6. And basically, I got two lenses and the Canon EOS R for the Canon R6 price. So I'm completely happy I got my Canon EOS R. But now I'm like, I want the R6. But then I saw on eBay and this website that I saw the Canon R5 for about $3,000. And then I went to the Canon R5. And then also I thought, but with the Canon R5, you've got to get a CF Express card. And they're like £160 for the Anglebird ones. And I'm probably going to have to get two of them, like a backup for when I'm obviously need to change cards. I'll probably need to get a CF Express card reader as well. That costs more, and with how the big file size is on the Canon R5, the 45 megapixel camera for stills, and obviously you can go up to 4K 120 on it, I'm going to probably have to buy an SSD as well, because at the minute I'm just shooting on or editing on a hard drive, like just a normal hard drive. And basically it's not the best, to be fair. It's not amazing, and I would have to, obviously it will be slow down my workflow if I do use hard drives. So that all adds up. So it's not just it was like an extra, I think with the R6 at the minute it was at $2,000. It's not just an extra £1,000 for the R5 from the R6. It's an extra let's just be safe, £1,300, £1,400 more. That is probably a lot more expensive. So then I was thinking maybe I will go for the R6. Then Canon announced and released the Canon R6 Mark II, which solved a lot of the Canon R6 problems for video. And everyone I've spoken to have said if you want the Canon R6 Mark II for video, then get it over the R6. For photography, it's not much different. I know I'm more of a video shooter than a photographer, and I love my video, so I'm probably going to want to get the R6 Mark II. So now the R6 is out of the equation. It was now the R6 Mark II. However, that's at £2,700, and I was thinking £300 more for the R5, and then if I thought back about the CF Express cards, and basically I was like, it's going to cost a lot more than £300. However, I found another Canon R5 the other day on another website for £2,800, but then I found the R6 Mark II for about £2,500, maybe even a little bit cheaper than that as well. So it's still working out a little bit more, but I could basically get the Canon R5 for the same price as a brand new Canon EOS R6 Mark II. Used as well, some of it's a lot cheaper, especially when you want to buy it used. So then I was thinking, the R6 Mark II, it's got unlimited recording, so for interviews and stuff like that, I don't have to worry about that. It's got 4K 60, it's got 1080p 120, it can shoot 10-bit 422, internally as well. It's got everything basically I need. I like the new on-off switch system that it actually has on the top left corner, and the on-off switch where your actual right hand lays and the video to photo on the left, because with the R5 you've still got I know there's a shortcut, but it's very annoying because I can't do the shortcut on my Canon EOS. So I have to click info, menu, info, and then info again, or menu again, to actually change the video. It's long and it's annoying. That's why the R6 Mark II is great for video. But again, it's like so many things are good about the R6 Mark II, but then I'm going back to like, will I regret getting the R6 Mark II instead of the Canon R5 when I could just get the Canon R5 now for a very, very similar price to the R6 Mark II on a really good discount, and basically have the R5. Like, it's future proof for years to come. 8K, if 8K ever comes around, and it actually is the industry standard, I can shoot 8K on the R5. Even not that, if it didn't have that, 4K 120, 4K 60, it has a 45 megapixel sensor. It's an unbelievable camera, and you can do everything with it. If I was doing a big project and I wanted to shoot super slow-mo, but everything had to be in 4K, I can do that with that camera, no problem at all. But if I get the R6 Mark II, I won't regret it either, because it's such an unbelievable hybrid camera, and it's cheaper. So I was on the fence of what to get, and I think I'm going back towards the Canon R5. It just looks unbelievable. The R5C was in contention at one point, but that's just way too much money, and the battery life's really annoying. And I mean, I use it anyway for at work, because I actually work for a video production company and we use R5Cs, and all they need is a battery grip. If they all I had was a battery grip, it'll be fine, because the battery runs out so much using so many of the Canon batteries over and over again, and it is a little bit annoying. So even if that was in the budget, I probably wouldn't touch that at the minute, just because of the battery life is annoying. It's like all this now what I'm recording and everything else, I'd probably actually have to keep changing batteries. So that's out of the equation anyway. So it's either R5, R6 Mark II. What do you actually think? Leave your comments down below. What do you actually think would you do in this situation? I still think at the minute I'm back on the R5. It's a great photo camera. Obviously the other one's a great photo camera as well, but the ability to crop in just that really high megapixel sensor is going to be really, really great. The thing with the R6 Mark II, it will be better in low light because of the 24 megapixel sensor, but at the end of the day, low light, yeah, it will be good, but it doesn't mean the Canon R5 is bad in low light either. Like for night photography, for example, on street photography, it's going to be fine because you want like neon signs anyway. But if you're actually shooting at night and you need to bump up your ISO a lot, if you're going to have a Canon R5, then I wouldn't be surprised if you already had lights as well. So if you are in bad places, like a really low light situation, then I don't see why you can't just use your lights, because obviously lighting is everything anyway. I don't think that's a problem at all for photography. Video, I think it will be amazing as well, and to be fair, I'm really, really excited to actually get one. I'm a bit far off it at the minute. Hopefully in a couple months time I'll actually be able to get one, because I'm saving up for it at the minute. But I mean, at the end of the day, what cameras do you actually guys use? Do you use Canon? Do you use Sony? Do you use Nikon? What do you actually use? If you do use Canon, what Canon camera do you have? If you have the R5, let me know what you think of it. Is it great? Is it worth it? If you have the R6 Mark II, do you think I should get that? The R6 Mark II is probably all I need at the minute anyway in this scenario. I probably won't ever need 4K 120. It's just a nice thing to have if I do want to shoot in it and keep that high resolution as well. Also, the high megapixel photos. Like, I do like my wildlife photography. To be able to crop in would be great. Like, there's so many good things about the R5 as well. The overheating they seem to fix as well. The R6 Mark II's got no overheating really either, but they did seem to fix it on the R5. That's another reason why I didn't want the R6, because of the overheating. That issue is still here. So at the end of the day, like, if the R5 had the bad overheating issues like it did before, R6 Mark II all day. But the fact that they actually did fix it a lot, really making me want to go towards the R5 again. So I'm in a little bit predicament. I'm actually looking here at the full spec comparisons as well, and to be fair, I mean, they're very similar. It's just like, I think the main differences between the two is the R6 Mark II can shoot unlimited versus 30 minutes. The Canon R5 has a 45 megapixel over a 24, nearly half the megapixels. It'll be amazing. Low light will probably be better on the R6 Mark II, doesn't matter. But on the R5, you can obviously shoot 4K 120. And that is really, really game-changing for me, to be fair. Not really game-changing, actually, thinking about it. I don't know why I said that. But basically, it's just really nice to have. 1080p 120 frames per second is great, but again, like I said, for YouTube content, if I want to shoot everything in landscape and I want to get a super slow motion video, I don't want to be shooting vertically anymore. I want to be shooting everything landscape. So if I do want to put that in my videos for the future or anything, and I can also repurpose them into YouTube shorts and TikToks, and if I do want to shoot in 120 frames per second, then I'd have to shoot in 4K to be able to get that quality still, to be able to post on shorts and that. And then I might be in that predicament again where I'm like, I can't shoot 4K 1080p on my Canon EOS R, so I shoot 1080p 60 frames per second. It might be the same if I get the Canon R6 Mark II as well, that I want to shoot 4K 120 but I can't, so I go back down to 1080p 120. So it's basically, I'm in that predicament anyway, but I think I'm going to go towards the R5. So anyway, about 15 minutes for the first podcast. That's basically the end of the video anyway, me rambling on about them two cameras. If you did enjoy, hit that like button and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future, and thank you very much for sticking all this way. So I guess I'll see you guys on the next video. See you later.